Have you ever wondered why some people seem to age more gracefully than others, remaining active and disease-free well into their 90s? In Japan, it's common to meet people in their 90s who still walk daily, cook for themselves, and live without relying on medication for chronic conditions. But what's even more surprising is that many Japanese doctors point to a simple, overlooked factor in their daily routines: what happens during the first 60 minutes after waking up. It's not supplements, expensive treatments, or extreme diets that make the difference. Instead, it's the consistency of a few fundamental habits practiced every morning. Habits so simple and natural that they often go unnoticed, yet they protect the body and mind for decades. The early hours of the day can have a profound impact on how well we age and how effectively we prevent disease, especially as we get older. Japanese longevity has long been admired around the world, and research into the lifestyles of Japanese elders, especially those in regions like Okinawa, has shown a consistent pattern. These individuals don't rely on miraculous genes or quick-fix solutions. Instead, their secret lies in routine, moderation, and balanced daily choices. Aging well after 50 isn't about following trends or hopping from one supplement to another. It's about simple habits that support long-term health. And perhaps surprisingly, many of these habits don't require hours at the gym or the latest fad diet. Instead, they focus on starting the day in a way that reduces stress, balances hormones, and stabilizes metabolism, allowing the body to function optimally for decades. What happens in the first hour after waking up is crucial. It's a window of opportunity to set the tone for the rest of the day, affecting everything from our energy levels to our ability to prevent chronic diseases. This first 60 minutes isn't about rushing, multitasking, or cramming in a workout. It's about gentle, deliberate actions that calm the body, nourish it, and prepare it for a day of healthy living. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover may surprise you. These habits don't involve complex routines or expensive products. They're simple, evidence-based practices that anyone can incorporate into their mornings. By the end of this video, you'll understand how small, consistent changes in your morning routine can have a massive impact on how you age and protect yourself from disease. Let's start by taking a closer look at the first key habit that many Japanese elders practice in the morning. One of the first habits that Japanese elders adopt is waking up naturally, without the jarring sound of an alarm clock. It may seem like a minor detail, but the way you wake up can significantly impact your health. Many elderly Japanese individuals avoid harsh, sudden awakenings because they know that being startled by a loud alarm spikes cortisol levels, essentially, the stress hormone that prepares us for fight or flight. Over time, elevated cortisol can contribute to various health issues, including high blood pressure, insulin resistance, and chronic inflammation. Instead, these elders allow themselves to wake gradually, without the rush or stress that often accompanies the modern, fast-paced morning routine. Their bodies are allowed to transition naturally from sleep to wakefulness, which prevents the abrupt cortisol spike and helps maintain a calm, stable start to the day. It's a subtle practice, but it has long-term effects on how the body handles stress, as well as its ability to maintain stable blood sugar and regulate metabolism. This simple habit of waking up slowly and avoiding stress can have a profound effect on how the body ages. By giving your body time to adjust and ease into the day, you set a more balanced, healthy tone for the hours ahead. Have you noticed how you feel on days when you wake up suddenly versus waking up slowly? This small shift in your morning routine could help lower your stress levels throughout the day and improve your overall well-being. Next, another critical habit that Japanese elders swear by is drinking a glass of warm water right after waking up. It might seem like an insignificant habit, but this practice helps to rehydrate the body, kickstart digestion, and promote healthy circulation. After hours of sleep, the body is naturally dehydrated, and drinking water is one of the simplest yet most effective ways to support bodily functions from the very beginning of the day. This morning hydration also aids in flushing out toxins that have built up overnight, preparing the digestive system for the day's first meal. Warm water, in particular, is preferred because it's gentler on the digestive tract compared to cold water, which can sometimes shock the system and slow down digestion. By rehydrating with warm water, Japanese elders help stabilize their metabolism, balance electrolytes, and reduce feelings of fatigue. The impact of this habit on overall health may surprise you. Many of us reach for coffee or tea first thing in the morning, but by prioritizing hydration with warm water, we support our body's natural processes in a way that sets the stage for a more energized and productive day. Have you tried this simple habit of drinking warm water in the morning? It may seem trivial, but its benefits are far-reaching and worth considering as part of your own routine. Let's now take a look at the next essential habit that many of these long-lived individuals practice in the morning. Japanese preventive medicine doctors who regularly work with patients in their 90s and beyond often describe a pattern that becomes impossible to ignore over time. These individuals may live in different regions, have different personal histories, and even different dietary preferences, but their mornings tend to look remarkably similar. They are calm, structured, and predictable. There is no sense of urgency, no rushing to complete multiple tasks at once, and no immediate exposure to excessive noise, screens, or mental stimulation. From a medical perspective, this consistency is not trivial. It has a measurable impact on stress regulation, hormone balance, and inflammation levels long before the day fully begins. Doctors observing these long-living patients often note that mornings are treated as a protected period. The nervous system is allowed to transition gradually from sleep into activity. This matters because the body's stress response system, particularly the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, is highly sensitive during the early hours. When mornings are rushed or chaotic, cortisol levels rise sharply. While cortisol is not inherently harmful, repeated excessive spikes day after day contribute to insulin resistance, elevated blood pressure, visceral fat accumulation, and chronic low-grade inflammation. Over decades, these effects significantly increase the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cognitive decline. In contrast, elders who maintain calm and predictable mornings tend to show better hormonal regulation throughout the day. Their cortisol follows a natural curve, rising gently after waking and declining gradually as the day progresses. This balanced pattern supports stable blood sugar levels, healthier appetite signals, and improved immune function. Doctors often see that these patients experience fewer inflammatory markers in blood tests and lower resting heart rates, even at advanced stages. These outcomes are not the result of a single decision, but of consistent daily choices repeated over many years. Breakfast habits are another point that Japanese doctors frequently emphasize in their observations. Long-living patients rarely skip breakfast, but they also do not overeat. Their first meal is treated as nourishment rather than stimulation. Skipping breakfast can place unnecessary stress on the body, forcing it to rely on stress hormones to maintain blood sugar levels. Over time, this pattern strains the pancreas and increases metabolic instability. By contrast, a modest, balanced breakfast helps signal safety and availability of energy to the body, reducing the need for hormonal compensation. This early stability influences metabolism for the next several hours, often well into the afternoon. Now I want to go deeper into this, because the medical importance of a calm morning goes beyond stress alone. Early overstimulation, such as loud news, constant phone notifications, or immediate problem-solving, activates the sympathetic nervous system too aggressively. In younger bodies, this may seem manageable, but as we age, recovery becomes slower. For adults over 50, repeated early overstimulation is associated with higher inflammation, poorer sleep quality at night, and increased cardiovascular strain. Japanese doctors often see that elders who limit early stimulation maintain better autonomic balance, meaning their bodies can shift smoothly between activity and rest when needed. Predictability also plays a crucial role. The body thrives on rhythm. When wake-up times, meals, and morning behaviors are consistent, internal clocks remain synchronized. This synchronization improves digestion, hormone release, and even cognitive clarity. Many long-living patients follow nearly identical morning routines every day, not out of rigidity, but because predictability reduces physiological stress. The body does not need to guess what is coming next. This lowers unnecessary energy expenditure and supports long-term resilience. For viewers aged 50 and older, this observation carries practical relevance. You do not need to replicate an exact cultural routine to benefit from the principle. The key is recognizing that how you start the day has a long-term effect that extends far beyond the morning itself. Decisions made in the first hour influence hormone balance, metabolic stability, and inflammatory responses for much of the day. Over years and decades, this contributes meaningfully to disease prevention and healthier aging. Doctors who have followed these patients for many years often describe their health outcomes as the result of repetition, not intensity. Calm mornings reduce cumulative stress load. Structured routines protect metabolic health. Predictable habits support prevention more effectively than occasional extreme efforts. This perspective shifts the focus away from dramatic interventions and towards sustainable daily behavior. Comment: this makes sense to me. This understanding creates a foundation for examining how specific foods and simple behaviors fit into this larger pattern of consistency and prevention. Among the first habits that Japanese preventive medicine doctors consistently observe in long-living patients is the way they wake up. Many elders in their 80s, 90s, and beyond do not begin their day with a sudden, loud alarm. Instead, they wake naturally with daylight, or they use very gentle alarm sounds that increase gradually. From a medical standpoint, this detail matters far more than most people realize, especially for adults over 50. The moment of waking is one of the most hormonally sensitive points of the day, and how the body transitions from sleep to wakefulness can influence blood pressure, blood sugar, and stress regulation for hours afterward. When a loud alarm sounds abruptly, the brain interprets it as a threat. This triggers an immediate activation of the sympathetic nervous system, causing a sharp release of cortisol and adrenaline. Heart rate increases, blood pressure rises, and glucose is released into the bloodstream. While this response is useful in emergencies, repeating it every morning creates unnecessary physiological stress. Over decades, this repeated stress response is associated with higher rates of hypertension, insulin resistance, and cardiovascular disease. Japanese doctors frequently see that patients who avoid this abrupt awakening tend to maintain more stable cardiovascular markers well into old age. Now I want to go deeper into this, because cortisol itself is not the problem. Cortisol plays an essential role in waking the body and mobilizing energy. The issue is the magnitude and timing of the cortisol spike. In healthy aging patterns, cortisol rises gradually after waking, reaches a modest peak, and then slowly declines throughout the day. This controlled rhythm supports steady blood sugar, normal appetite signals, and balanced immune function. Sudden alarm-induced awakenings disrupt this rhythm by forcing an exaggerated spike at the wrong moment. Over time, the body becomes less efficient at regulating glucose and blood pressure, increasing the risk of metabolic disorders. For adults aged 50 and older, the impact is even more pronounced. As we age, blood vessels become less elastic, and the cardiovascular system becomes more sensitive to sudden pressure changes. A sharp morning blood pressure surge places additional strain on the heart and arteries. Japanese elders who wake gently tend to show lower morning blood pressure readings and reduced variability throughout the day. Doctors often note fewer incidents of early morning cardiovascular events among patients with calmer wake-up routines. Another important aspect is sleep quality itself. Knowing that a loud alarm will interrupt sleep can keep the nervous system in a state of anticipation during the final sleep cycle, reducing restorative deep sleep. Gentle wake-up methods allow the brain to complete sleep cycles more naturally, improving overall sleep efficiency. Better sleep quality supports hormone regulation, memory, and immune resilience, all of which contribute to healthy aging and disease prevention. This habit does not require drastic changes or special equipment. The principle is consistency and reduction of unnecessary stress. Using a softer alarm tone, choosing alarms that gradually increase in volume, or allowing natural light to signal waking can all reduce the intensity of the stress response. Some Japanese elders even align their bedtime and wake times so precisely that alarms become unnecessary. What matters most is minimizing sudden physiological shock at the start of the day. From a long-term perspective, this daily choice compounds quietly. A calmer wake-up leads to lower cortisol exposure over years, better blood sugar stability, and less strain on the cardiovascular system. These effects are subtle in the short term but meaningful over decades. Japanese doctors view this habit not as a comfort preference, but as a preventive measure with measurable outcomes. This understanding creates a smoother physiological foundation for the behaviors that follow after waking, allowing the body to operate in a more balanced state. Comment: I'm starting with one change. Another consistent habit observed by Japanese preventive medicine doctors is the preference for light movement in the morning rather than intense exercise. Many long-living elders begin their day with gentle stretching, slow walking, or simple joint movements that take only a few minutes. This approach is deliberate and grounded in how the aging body responds to physical stress. After waking, muscles, joints, and connective tissues are less hydrated and less elastic. Forcing high-intensity exercise at this moment increases the risk of micro-injuries, inflammation, and balance issues, especially in adults over 50. Light movement serves a different physiological purpose. It gradually increases blood flow to muscles and joints, delivering oxygen and nutrients without overwhelming the cardiovascular system. This gentle activation helps lubricate joints through the production and circulation of synovial fluid, which reduces stiffness and discomfort. Japanese doctors often observe that elders who follow this habit maintain better joint mobility and report fewer chronic pain issues, even at advanced ages. The goal is not to raise heart rate aggressively, but to restore natural range of motion and circulation. Now I want to go deeper into this, because the distinction between movement and exercise becomes increasingly important with age. Intense workouts trigger a stress response similar to other forms of physiological strain. Cortisol and inflammatory markers rise to support muscle repair. While this can be beneficial when carefully managed, repeated high-intensity training without adequate recovery increases systemic inflammation over time. Japanese elders tend to avoid this pattern in the morning, when the body is still transitioning from rest. Instead, they choose movements that signal safety and stability to the nervous system. Balance and coordination are another critical factor. Simple morning movements such as controlled walking or joint rotations help activate proprioceptive pathways, which are responsible for spatial awareness and balance. For older adults, maintaining these pathways is essential for fall prevention. Japanese doctors frequently note lower fall rates among elders who maintain daily light movement routines. By activating muscles and joints gradually, the body becomes more responsive and stable throughout the day. There is also a metabolic benefit. Light movement increases insulin sensitivity without causing blood sugar fluctuations. This is particularly relevant for adults over 50, who are more prone to glucose dysregulation. Gentle activity helps muscles absorb glucose efficiently, reducing the need for excessive insulin release. Over years, this contributes to better metabolic control and lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes. Unlike intense exercise, which can temporarily raise blood sugar due to stress hormone release, light movement supports steady regulation. Consistency plays a central role in the long-term effect of this habit. Japanese elders rarely miss these morning movements, not because they are strenuous, but because they are easy to sustain. 5 to 10 minutes of slow, controlled movement each day accumulates into thousands of low-stress activations per year. Doctors view this repetition as more protective than sporadic bursts of intense activity. The body adapts to what it does most often, and gentle daily movement reinforces resilience rather than strain. From a preventive standpoint, this habit aligns with maintaining independence later in life. Preserving joint function, balance, and circulation supports daily activities such as walking, cooking, and personal care. Japanese doctors often emphasize that longevity is closely tied to mobility, not athletic performance. Light morning movement supports the body's ability to function efficiently without triggering inflammation that accelerates aging. This type of movement also prepares the body for the rest of the day by improving circulation and coordination without exhausting energy reserves. It creates a stable physical baseline that allows subsequent activities to be performed with less risk and greater control. Comment: This makes sense to me. Another habit that Japanese preventive medicine doctors consistently observe among long-living patients is the way they approach breakfast. Traditional Japanese breakfasts are small, balanced, and intentionally simple. They often include a modest portion of rice, miso soup, fish, fermented foods, and vegetables. What is notably absent is just as important as what is included. There is no sugar overload, no large portions, and no emphasis on sweetness as a way to stimulate energy. From a medical perspective, This pattern has a clear impact on blood sugar control, inflammation, and digestive health, particularly for adults over 50. After waking, the body is metabolically sensitive. Insulin responsiveness is still stabilizing, and the digestive system is transitioning from rest to activity. When breakfast is dominated by refined carbohydrates or added sugars, blood glucose rises quickly. This forces the pancreas to release a large amount of insulin in a short period of time. Repeated daily over many years, this pattern contributes to insulin resistance, fat accumulation, and systemic inflammation. Japanese doctors often see that elders who maintain modest, balanced breakfasts show better long-term glucose regulation and lower rates of metabolic disease. Now I want to go deeper into this, because the size and composition of the first meal have consequences that extend far beyond the morning. Protein and fiber play a central role in stabilizing blood sugar. Fish, tofu, eggs, vegetables, and fermented foods slow digestion and reduce glucose spikes. This leads to steadier energy levels and fewer fluctuations in appetite later in the day. For adults over 50, this stability is especially important, as hormonal changes make blood sugar more difficult to regulate. Japanese elders benefit from breakfasts that support gradual nutrient absorption rather than rapid stimulation. Fermented foods such as miso and pickled vegetables add another layer of protection. These foods support gut microbiota diversity, which influences immune function, inflammation control, and even cholesterol metabolism. Japanese doctors frequently observe that elders who regularly consume fermented foods report fewer digestive complaints and show stronger immune resilience. The gut plays a central role in overall health, and morning intake of fermented foods helps maintain a balanced microbial environment. Portion size is another critical factor. Japanese breakfasts are intentionally modest. Large meals place immediate demand on digestion and blood flow, diverting energy away from other systems. Over time, consistently oversized breakfasts contribute to weight gain and metabolic strain. Smaller portions allow the body to process nutrients efficiently without triggering stress responses. This approach aligns with prevention rather than compensation, supporting steady metabolic function over decades. Another important aspect is the absence of sweet-heavy foods in the morning. Sweet pastries, sugary cereals, and sweetened beverages create a rapid rise and fall in blood sugar, often leading to mid-morning fatigue and hunger. Japanese elders tend to avoid this cycle entirely. Their breakfast choices prioritize nourishment over stimulation. This reduces the likelihood of cravings later in the day and supports better decision-making around food intake overall. For adults aged 50 and older, applying this habit does not require adopting a traditional Japanese menu exactly. The principle is balance and moderation. A breakfast that includes protein, fiber, and minimal added sugar supports stable energy and reduces inflammatory load. These daily choices, repeated consistently, have a measurable long-term effect on disease prevention and healthy aging. Japanese doctors view breakfast not as a source of excitement or indulgence, but as a functional meal that sets metabolic conditions for the day. This perspective helps explain why elders maintain strength, mobility, and cognitive clarity well into old age. This dietary pattern also creates a stable internal environment that allows other daily behaviors to work more effectively, reinforcing prevention through consistency. Comment: this makes sense to me. When Japanese preventive medicine doctors look at these habits collectively rather than individually, a clear pattern emerges in how they influence long-term health. Each habit may seem modest on its own, but together they create a daily environment that keeps the body in a regulated, low-stress state. This state is critical for disease prevention, particularly as the body ages. Chronic diseases rarely appear suddenly. They develop gradually through repeated exposure to inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and metabolic instability. These morning routines directly counter those processes by stabilizing the systems that most strongly influence aging. One of the most important mechanisms at work is inflammation control. Low-grade chronic inflammation is a known contributor to heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, and cognitive decline. The habits described earlier consistently reduce unnecessary inflammatory triggers. Calm mornings limit stress hormone surges. Gentle hydration supports circulation without shock. Light movement increases blood flow without tissue damage. Balanced meals prevent glucose spikes. Morning sunlight aligns hormonal timing. Japanese doctors often observe that elders who follow these routines show lower inflammatory markers in routine medical testing, even in advanced age. Now I want to go deeper into this, because hormonal regulation plays a central role in how these benefits accumulate over time. Hormones such as cortisol, insulin, melatonin, and ghrelin are highly sensitive to daily timing and consistency. When mornings are rushed or chaotic, these hormones become dysregulated. Cortisol may remain elevated, insulin becomes less effective, and sleep hormones lose their rhythm. Over years, this dysregulation accelerates aging and increases disease risk. In contrast, consistent morning routines reinforce predictable hormonal cycles. This predictability allows the body to allocate energy efficiently, repair tissues properly, and maintain stable internal conditions. Metabolic health is another area where the long-term impact becomes evident. Japanese longevity studies, particularly those examining populations in Okinawa, consistently show lower rates of metabolic disorders such as type 2 diabetes and obesity. Researchers attribute much of this protection to daily regulation rather than caloric restriction alone. Stable blood sugar levels reduce oxidative stress and protect blood vessels. Over decades, this lowers the risk of cardiovascular disease and supports brain health. Japanese doctors frequently emphasize that metabolism responds more favorably to regular, moderate inputs than to occasional intense efforts. Cognitive health also benefits from this pattern. The brain is highly sensitive to inflammation, glucose instability, and poor sleep. When daily routines protect circadian rhythm and metabolic balance, cognitive decline tends to progress more slowly. Studies of long-living Japanese populations show lower incidence of dementia compared to Western populations with similar age distributions. While genetics play a role, doctors consistently point to daily habits as a major contributing factor. The brain benefits from the same regulation that protects the heart and metabolism. Another important aspect is the cumulative effect of small decisions. These habits work because they are repeated every day with minimal effort. The body adapts to what it experiences most often. Occasional healthy behaviors cannot offset daily stress and imbalance. Japanese preventive medicine focuses on reducing physiological strain wherever possible, allowing the body to maintain function rather than constantly recover from disruption. This approach becomes increasingly important after age 50, when recovery capacity naturally declines. From a clinical perspective, this explains why longevity in Japan is not associated with extreme fitness levels or aggressive interventions. It is associated with predictable routines that minimize internal stress. Heart disease, diabetes, and cognitive decline develop more slowly when the body operates within stable parameters day after day. The long-term effect is not dramatic in the short term, but highly protective over decades. These observations help explain why Japanese elders often maintain independence, mobility, and mental clarity well into old age. Their daily choices support regulation rather than stimulation. Over time, this reduces disease burden and preserves functional capacity. Comment: this makes sense to me. This understanding sets the stage for examining how these principles translate into practical adjustments that fit different lifestyles while preserving the same regulatory effect. For Western viewers, especially those living in fast-paced environments, it is important to understand that applying these habits does not require adopting a Japanese lifestyle or cultural framework. Japanese preventive medicine doctors consistently emphasize that the underlying principles are universal. The human nervous system, hormonal system, and metabolism function in the same way regardless of geography. What differs is how daily decisions either support or disrupt those systems. Calm mornings, gentle movement, stable blood sugar, and early light exposure are not culturally specific behaviors. They are biological needs that can be met in many different contexts. Many adults over 50 assume that meaningful health improvements require major lifestyle changes or strict routines. In reality, Japanese doctors observe that long-term protection comes from reducing unnecessary strain rather than adding complexity. A calmer wake-up, basic hydration, brief movement, a simple meal, and some daylight exposure can be integrated into almost any morning schedule. The impact comes from repetition, not intensity. When these actions are performed consistently, they create a stable physiological baseline that supports prevention rather than reaction. Now I want to go deeper into this, because adaptation is often where people struggle. Western routines are frequently built around urgency, stimulation, and multitasking. These patterns activate stress responses early in the day and set an unstable tone that carries forward. Adapting these habits does not mean eliminating responsibilities. It means changing the order and manner in which the body is engaged. For example, waking calmly even 10 minutes earlier can reduce stress hormone spikes. Drinking water before caffeine supports circulation and digestion. Light movement before demanding tasks prepares joints and balance systems without fatigue. Eating a simple, protein-focused breakfast stabilizes blood sugar. Stepping outside briefly provides the light signal needed for circadian alignment. None of these require additional time-consuming activities. For adults aged 50 and older, these adaptations are particularly relevant because the body's tolerance for disruption decreases with age. Recovery from stress becomes slower, and metabolic flexibility declines. Japanese doctors often point out that prevention becomes less about doing more and more about removing small sources of daily strain. Western viewers can benefit from viewing these habits as protective adjustments rather than new obligations. The goal is to create a morning environment that supports hormonal stability and reduces inflammation before external demands accumulate. Consistency matters more than perfection in this context. Missing a day does not negate long-term benefits, but frequent inconsistency weakens regulatory patterns. The body adapts to what it experiences most often. When mornings are usually calm and structured, occasional disruption is better tolerated. This perspective reduces pressure and supports sustainable behavior. Japanese longevity research consistently shows that moderate, repeatable routines are more protective than sporadic health efforts. Another important factor is flexibility. These principles can be adjusted to individual schedules and physical limitations. Someone with limited mobility can still benefit from gentle seated movement. Someone with early work hours can still access daylight, even briefly. The core idea is aligning daily choices with biological needs rather than fighting them. Over years, this alignment reduces disease risk and preserves function. Japanese doctors view adaptation as a process of simplification rather than optimization. By removing excess stimulation and stabilizing basic physiological inputs, the body is allowed to maintain balance more effectively. This approach resonates strongly with prevention-focused care, especially in aging populations. These practical adjustments demonstrate how universal biological principles can be applied without cultural replication, creating a foundation that supports long-term health through steady regulation. Comment: I'm starting with one change. Japanese elders don't rely on quick fixes, trendy diets, or high-tech solutions to maintain their health. Instead, they depend on simple, repeatable habits that quietly protect their bodies over decades. These habits might seem mundane or unremarkable to those unfamiliar with their long-term effects, but the consistent application of these routines is exactly what helps them avoid the chronic diseases that often accompany aging. These habits are not glamorous or revolutionary. They are just grounded in biology and consistent with the body's natural needs. There is no one-time cure or instant solution, but a steady, thoughtful approach to maintaining balance. The impact of these practices accumulates slowly but steadily. Each morning, when a person wakes up calmly, hydrates, moves lightly, and nourishes their body with simple, balanced food choices, they set in motion a chain of processes that help regulate hormones, reduce inflammation, and improve metabolism. Over time, these effects compound, creating a healthier body and mind. These habits don't require radical lifestyle changes, just a willingness to be consistent with small actions every day. Whether it's drinking warm water in the morning, stepping outside for a bit of sunlight, or starting the day with gentle movement, the key is regularity. The body thrives on predictability, and these habits build a foundation of health that can prevent many of the diseases commonly associated with aging. Now I want to go deeper into this, because these are not just good habits to follow, they are simple, sustainable choices that support longevity in ways that go beyond just physical health. When these actions are embedded in daily life, they allow the body to function optimally without excess strain. Many people over 50 find that the biggest barriers to good health are not external circumstances but the repeated, small mistakes or omissions they make each day. It's the extra sugar in the morning coffee, the rushed mornings with no time to move gently, or the skipped hydration that slowly add up over time. Japanese elders have figured out that longevity comes not from extraordinary efforts but from consistent, low-intensity habits that keep the body in balance. If this shift in thinking has helped you see mornings differently and you're considering integrating one of these habits into your routine, start with just one tomorrow morning. There's no need to overcomplicate things. Whether it's waking up a few minutes earlier to hydrate or taking a moment to step outside for sunlight, each small change is a step toward supporting your long-term health. These habits, when practiced regularly, can have a profound effect on your well-being, helping to maintain your energy, metabolism, and overall health as you age. Consistency is the key here, more so than perfection. The long-term benefits come from repeated, daily actions rather than any single extraordinary effort. Your body will thank you for the daily care you give it, and over time, the results will be evident. Even small changes can help you feel better and live healthier. Comment: I'm starting with one change. If you stayed with me through this entire explanation, you've now seen how simple, repeatable morning habits can influence health far more than trends or extreme interventions. This kind of approach is what Japanese preventive medicine focuses on: small daily decisions that support the body quietly over time. If this way of looking at aging, food choices, and disease prevention is useful to you, subscribing simply ensures you continue receiving practical, evidence-based discussions like this, without unnecessary complexity. If something here resonated with you, leave a comment with the phrase, "This made sense to me." It's a simple way to mark that you followed the full explanation and found it relevant. And if the information felt valuable, a like is a straightforward way to acknowledge that. There's a video here that complements this topic and builds naturally on what we've just discussed. You can continue from there and explore how these principles fit into everyday life even more clearly.